This is one that I've been working on for quite a while, kind of in the background for you guys. Obviously, it's 2025. From the year 2000 up until today, I thought to myself, 25 years, that's a quarter of a century. First of all, holy shit, I am old, or like really old. But secondly, there have been so many classic films, borderline masterpieces, and in some case, there have been several masterpieces that have come out in the last 25 years. It's what I would call the modern era of cinema. I'm going to give you on this video my top 25 movies from the last 25 years. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the garage. Gerald here with you. We're kind of stepping out of the awards season chatter for this video, as it's going to be a rather long one where I count down my 25 favorite films that have been released since the year 2000 up until present day. I'm recording this video in June of 2025, so if anything came out after halfway through the year in 2025, it will not be on this list. Another thing I want to mention before I dive into this behemoth countdown, what is wrong with me, is I'm going to be doing a separate one of these just like this for horror movies. I started doing my research and making my list. I've really been working on this for a couple months now, and I realized there are so many GD horror movies on this list. It was like literally 15 out of the 25 movies when I did it initially. So I'm going to do a separate top 25 of the last 25 for horror. This is going to be anything non-horror. So anything else is eligible to be on this list. Let's get started, as I'm going to give you 5 honorable mentions real quick that did not crack the top 25, that I was literally staying up sleepless nights sweating to figure out what would make the cut and what wouldn't. I'm going to just list these 5 real quick because it's going to make me really depressed that some of these are not on the list. And then we'll dive into the countdown. There will be clips from each film, by the way, once we get into the top 25. I tried to pick out my favorite scene from each movie, but I kept it under like 45 seconds. So there's no really long clips. Most of them are like 30 to 40 seconds. So enjoy those, and then I'll give you a little brief commentary. I'm going to try to stay around 1 minute or less for each film. I'll see you on the other side. Here's some honorable mentions I want to shout out real quick before we dive into our top 25. All right, these would essentially be my 30 through 26. I'm so sorry to all these films. Oh my God, don't hate me. Number 30, Damien Chazelle's Babylon. You're goddamn right. Next, 2018's A Star is Born, the phenomenally directed effort from Bradley Cooper starring Lady Gaga. Alex Garland's Annihilation from 2018 as well. And from 2000, the landmark, groundbreaking international film, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And another international film will be my last honorable mention. I can't believe this didn't crack the top 25. I love this movie so much. It is Park Chan-wook's The Handmaiden from 2016. By the way, that is a fucking freaky watch. I suggest you check it out. All right, let's get into the official countdown with number 25.
Gogo, I know you feel you must protect your mistress, but I beg you, walk away.
Kill Bill. You know, I could have cheated and done The Whole Bloody Affair, which would have been Volume 1 and Volume 2. But in this first one, I was already a huge Tarantino fan, and I love also how this film is unapologetically a revenge thriller. And it doesn't try to mix in anything else. She's just going to kill Bill. The title even tells you what we're doing here. And I love how we get to the end of Volume 1 and we get that really stellar cliffhanger. And it was in an era, like, we weren't quite in the social media phase yet. This was in 2003, so it was early on, and things couldn't really be spoiled quite yet. And you could do those really dramatic cliffhangers like that. Great performance from Uma Thurman, a absolute stellar cast here. And of course, as you saw in my clip that I showed you, one of my favorite scenes and favorite characters from any Tarantino film is the young Gogo Yubari. She is a lethal badass in this movie, and there's a lot of those actually to go around in this film. Tarantino is the only filmmaker in this top 25 that has 2 entries, so we'll be seeing another one of his films a little bit later. Now look, as I'm saying this, I know there's a Toy Story 4 that came out a couple years ago. I know there's a Toy Story 5 in development. Just hear me out. Back in 2010, when this came out, it was thought that this is the end of an era. This is the end of a story. This is the send-off and the swan song for characters that we grew up with, just like Andy grew up with in the story. And there is an emotional connection to be had there for children, even in 2010, but also in the 90s. And then those people that were kids in the 90s through the 2000s with Toy Story 3. The first Toy Story coming out in 1996 was almost 15 years removed from Toy Story 3. So you had a 15-year growth as a human, and you're experiencing a lot of these life trials and tribulations along the way, just like the characters do in a fun way in the Toy Story franchise. But it was so emotional because you thought you were saying goodbye to them. You felt connected to them. The one scene in the garbage inferno when they all think they're going to meet their demise together and they're holding hands, which is the scene I showed you, is literally probably one of, on a hand I could count, times that I've cried during an animated film, again, because I thought that was it.
That's very funny. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
尽管离家让我心碎，我想告诉你，如果有来生，我还是会选择和你一起报税，开心一点。
At number 23 is our 2023 Academy Award winner for Best Picture, also walking away with Best Directors, Best Lead Actress, and Supporting Actor for, of course, Michelle Yeoh and Ke Huy Quan, Everything Everywhere, All at Once. This was a film that hit at the right time, coming kind of towards the end of that COVID era, or at least the fear kind of around COVID. And it was a unique story about family. And it was using the tropes that the MCU and other film franchises had used with the multiverses, and different things can happen in this universe that can't happen in this one, and that's why this person can do this here but can't do it here. It used those kind of storytelling cliches to its benefit to tell a family drama story at its core, and how family is always the most important. And Michelle Yeoh's character as the mother figure and her connection to her daughter in this film, her kind of failing relationship and marriage with her husband, and how all of that is kind of tied together, and how even when you leave universes, you can't escape the reality of what you're going through in your life or what your family may be experiencing. This was a really touching film, but it was also a really fucking cool film. And this is one of the most inspired Academy Award winners for Best Picture, even if you don't like the movie. It is one of the very few in the last 25 years that feel different than all the rest.
I want to go where culture is,
Okay,
like
how
New
in the
York,
world did I raise such a
or at least
snob?
Connecticut or New Hampshire,
Well,
where
you
writers
couldn't
live in the
get
woods.
into those schools anyway.
Mom,
You can't even pass your driver's test.
because you wouldn't let me practice
The way
enough.
that you work, or the way that you don't work, you're not even worth state tuition, Christine.
My name is Ladybird.
Well, actually, it's not, and it's ridiculous.
Call me
because your name
Ladybird
is
like you
Christine.
said you would.
You should just go to City College. You know, with your work ethic, just go to City College and then to jail, and then back to City College, and then maybe you'd learn to pull yourself up and not expect everybody to do everything.
But the only like official comedy in my top 25. There's a couple other ones that are comedic in parts, but not full-blown comedies, like a film like Lady Bird. Saoirse Ronan, who is one of the best doing it. I'm working on a video right now of actors and actresses that have received at least 2 nominations or more and have never won an Oscar, and she's one of the ones that I'm literally, I can't believe it. I mean, she's such a good actress. And in Lady Bird, another one of her nominated roles, this is a coming-of-age story told from Greta Gerwig, and it has Laurie Metcalf in that mother role, who was also nominated for an Academy Award, and the mother-daughter relationship here, and it could even extend to males as well, father-son, mother-son, father-daughter, whatever. That parental-child relationship in this movie is so real. It is like real world. There's nothing added to it to make it more Hollywood. That is just the way it is when you're coming of age. when you're in that adolescent phase where you just don't want to have anything to do with your parents. Believe me, I've experienced it. I'm actually currently experiencing it with one of my sons, a little too early if you ask me. Also, Timothy Chalamet's in this movie. So if you know me, I mean, 20 of the films on here could be movies with him in it, although I don't know if he's been in 20 films, but you get my point.
Jack fucking Twist.
(2005's) Brokeback Mountain, as you see, is here at my number 21. Directed by Ang Lee, obviously starring Jake Gyllenhaal and the late Heath Ledger. You also get stellar supporting performances from Michelle Williams, Oscar nominated, and Anne Hathaway in the movie. I love the raw intensity of this film while still being quiet and subtle. And Ang Lee really captured something with this movie. It is a zeitgeist film. Now, of course, you're going to find the GIFs, the memes, you know, the parodies, whatever, you know, I mean, it is what it is. But that's also how you know that a film is going to live forever. If it is being parodied and made fun of 20 years after it came out, then it's going to live on. And it's going to be one of those films that just everybody knows the title to it. Everybody's going to seek it out when the time comes, like, oh, I got to see Brokeback Mountain. But I do love the importance of it, too, from like the LGBT perspective and the focus on that community that is still marginalized, but definitely was at the time in 2005. But this is just a beautiful love story, but even more so a story of friendship, a story of the forbidden nature and desire that a lot of us feel at different points in our lives, and what is truly thought to be the way that others see us and how important that is to us versus what we actually want or need in our lives. It's also a heartbreaking film.
Laura, honey, you want to stay where you are. You want to see your friends, right?
Commander Mutante!
Command, stop.
You said alive or dead?
Laura! Laura. No. Move!
So my number 20 here, this is my son's namesake. I actually have his name tattooed right there, as you can see, Logan, and it has the Weapon X symbol. So what do you think he's named after? Not necessarily this movie, as it came out in 2017 and he was born in 2014, but he is named after Logan, Weapon X, or Logan from the X-Men franchise, of course, Wolverine. What we got in 2017 from director James Mangold was a superhero or a comic book themed film that was a Western and a crime thriller. Now, we've seen comic book movies as crime thrillers or whatever. We've never really seen them as Westerns in the way they were told and in this kind of gritty, otherworldly way of portraying the source material, but also still having that comic book flair to it, that superhero enhancement to these characters. We got introduced to Laura, portrayed by Daphne Keane, who was just tremendous. I mean, 12 years old, I think, when she filmed this. Was tremendous in this movie. Obviously, Patrick Stewart's back in the mix. One of the reasons why this is on the list for me is Hugh Jackman. I mean, I can't even think if there's another performance on this list of the 25 movies of a actor embodying a character so much. Like, he is literally Wolverine. Like, I am just, even if it's 50 years from now, I feel so bad for whoever has to play Wolverine next on film or in TV or whatever, because Hugh Jackman took that. It's his now. It is literally his now. Do you guys remember how Johnny Cash played Hurt from 9 Inch Nails and he did the cover, and they interviewed Trent Reznor about it, and he said, oh, that's not my song anymore now. That's Johnny Cash's song now. That's his. I heard his version. That's his song. That's how I feel like anybody that looks at Logan as a character is going to feel about Hugh Jackman's performance.
Very good.
front. We're almost done. And that's it. Okay. We're done. Thank you very much.
Georgina?
Yes.
I'm Lily, Tomas sent you.
Yes, we have to get you measured for your Swan Queen costumes.
What's she doing here? He made me your alternate.
Now, I said I was going to leave horror out for another list. I sought some of my members' opinion on this, and they said go ahead and leave Black Swan on this list because it's enough psychological thriller and enough not horror to leave it. Natalie Portman's Oscar-winning performance as Nina Sayers in Black Swan is, man, to date, one of the best Oscar wins, in my opinion. Just so inspired. So one of my favorites, which is another video I'm going to do, by the way. But this is easily in my top 5 to 10 favorite Academy wins for acting ever. Much like I said with Hugh Jackman on the previous pick, she just becomes Nina, and you actually feel like Natalie Portman is the one breaking down. You actually feel her kind of battling with her inner demons and battling with the portrayal of this character. Now, of course, it may have affected her psychological, I'm not sure, but of course she's acting, right? And that's how it proves to be one of the greatest acting performances of the last 25 years as well, which is why she has that gold in her hand from the Academy. And then talking about the film as a whole, this is Darren Aronofsky, who is a filmmaker I'm very fond of. Every movie he does, it's almost like it's a nightmare on screen. And usually it's being shown from that main character's POV or the troubled character's POV. And none more effective than in Black Swan.
You traitor him!
No unnecessary killing!
Because Warboy wants me dead!
I agree! He's coming crazy! He's just a kid at the end of his half-life!
No, I live, I die, I live again!
Tie him out! Throw him out! Chuck him out!
My number 18, Mad Max Fury Road. Some people have said the greatest action movie of all time. Think about that, guys. We've been making movies for over 100 years, and of that entire run, this is the best action movie. And you know what? I think an argument can be made for that. I believe that argument, and it's something that is subjective and that would be really hard to prove, but you can absolutely make that argument with a straight face. George Miller returning to the Mad Max franchise for the first time in like 25 years here with Fury Road. And he just blew everybody up, blew the doors off the thing. I mean, the cinematography, the color grading, the vibrant, energetic, rock and roll feel, punk rock feel of this movie is something that just gets in your veins and pumps you up. I can remember seeing this on opening weekend in the cinema, and one of the best experiences in the Dolby Cinema is seeing Fury Road. The same thing happened with Furiosa last year, but I think I was the only person to go see it.
I'm not moving from this spot until they come to me. You'll just have to shoot me.
Your Royal Highness, do you want me to intervene?
My sons are going to join their mother.
From one of the loudest, most energetic, batshit crazy movies in Mad Max Fury Road to one of the most quiet, subdued, subtle, calm movies on this list. In fact, probably the most calm movie on this list is Pablo Larraín's Spencer from 2021. This stars Miss Kristen Stewart portraying Princess Diana. And it's what I love about it and what Larraín did here. This was kind of his trilogy of iconic women because he did Jackie with Natalie Portman. He did this one, and he just this past year did Maria with Angelina Jolie. And it's these women that are dealing with inner demons, and they're dealing with their lot in life and not being able to balance it. Whether it's celebrity, whether it's financial, whether it's success, how they're viewed in the public eye. In Princess Diana's case, it's actually all that shit. But Kristen Stewart showed me something in this film that to date, she's one of my favorite actresses. And really it's because of what she did as her turn as Princess Di here. So tragic, so kind of offbeat funny in this movie. She has a couple really just funny line deliveries, and I got the sense that she really took that character of Princess Di and her kind of, and the way she's been portrayed historically in popular media, and made it her own, you know, kind of like how she thought it would be behind closed doors in the castle. And it was so good. It was so affecting and mesmerizing when she was on screen in this movie.
Call it. Call it, yes. For what? Just call it. I didn't put nothing up. Yes, you did. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it. Well, look, I need to know what I stand to win. You stand to win everything. Call it. All right. Heads, then. Well done. Don't put it in your pocket. It's your lucky quarter. Where you want me to put it? Anywhere not in your pocket. Or it'll get mixed in with the others and become just a coin.
Man, the Coen brothers, have they ever been as good as they were, at least as a duo, in 2007's No Country for Old Men, another big Academy Award player in its year. Javier Bardem, I mean, for my money, one of the greatest cinematic villains in the history of film. And I was telling you earlier that we've had over 100 years of making movies, and that's a bold statement, but that's just how I feel. And of course, that's based on what I've seen. I've probably only seen a sliver of the movies that exist in the world, but of the ones I've seen, he is easily one of the best villains I've seen on camera. We also get out of this world supporting performances from Tommy Lee Jones, Josh Brolin, Woody Harrelson, Kelly MacDonald, among many others. The scene I showed you with that sympathetic antagonist of Javier Bardem dealing with the grocery store clerk and basically making him flip a coin and call it to decide whether he's going to kill him or not because he asked him too many questions when he was kind of on the run. Man, talk about palpable tension in that scene. I mean, filmmakers have done it. I had Tarantino on my list earlier. There's plenty of filmmakers that have done it, but that scene specifically, and there's scenes like it in this movie with Bardem that are just, they get under your skin, they make it crawl, and you just can't wait to see what the outcome is, but you're also kind of grimacing the whole time as to what's going to happen.
Who did your makeup?
We went for something dramatic. Do you like it?
You look like a badger.
Oh.
Are you going to cry? Really?
Well, what do you think you look like?
Badger.
Thank you.
Did you just look at me?
Did you? Look at me! Look at me! How dare you! Close your eyes!
The Favorite is my favorite Yorgos Lanthimos movie. The guy has done some weird, off-the-wall shit. He is a crazy, kind of psychedelic filmmaker. A lot of times it'll be rooted in the source material and who's writing a screenplay or what it's based on or whatever. But when he makes a movie, it's almost always kind of surreal or just fucking weird. However, in The Favorite, he puts bits and pieces of that weirdness into his film. But this is the most kind of like straight narrative Lanthimos film that we've received. It's essentially a biopic following Queen Anne, who is portrayed to absolute astounding amazement by Olivia Colman, who ended up winning the lead actress Oscar that year. She was actually my number one when I ranked the best actress wins of the last 10 years. Inhabits this truly depressed and tragic character of Queen Anne. This is a woman who, I think, I'm trying to remember the exact number, but I think lost 27 children in childbirth or shortly thereafter. I mean, one miscarriage is, some people never recover from that. 27 of them? I could have that number wrong, but I know it's a lot. And then you also have it's a three-hander in this movie, because you also have brilliant supporting performances from Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone, both nominated for their roles in this film also. Lanthimos has been known to borrow from filmmakers like Kubrick, with Barry Lyndon, for example, and use all natural light in The Favorite. And if you see that, and you know anything about film, I mean, to this day, I still can't believe it.
Maybe you remember Alexander Monroe?
Oh, yes, Alexander Monroe. He actually just came back and gave a talk here.
So you don't remember the accusations made against Al Monroe?
I don't.
He took a girl, Nina Fisher, the one you don't remember, back to his room where he had sex with her repeatedly and in front of his friends while she was too drunk to have any idea what was going on. She was covered in bruises the next day. Handprints, I guess you could say.
Was it reported?
Yes.
Do you know who Nina spoke to?
You.
In December of 2020, a buddy of mine that works at a local movie theater here, he called me up and he said, hey man, nobody's coming out to the theater. We reopened. This is like 8 or 9 months after the first COVID hit and everything shut down. You want to come see, you can come see this for free. Come see, I want to hang out with some people. I'm going to be seeing this movie. They're showing it to the theater employees beforehand. And if you want to come, I can bring somebody. You come check it out. I know you haven't been to the theater in 9 months. And he knows how much I love movies. So shout out to that dude. He knows who he is. So I said, yeah, man. You know, my wife approved it. I had to wear a mask. We was 6 feet apart. God, what a fucking nightmare that time period was. But I get there and I didn't know a whole lot about the movie. I'd heard of it, and you know, the filmmaker, even at the time, I was kind of familiar with her name, but I think she was like a British actress at the time for the most part. I'd heard her name. I'd heard of the movie. I obviously have heard of Carey Mulligan and some other actors in the film. And I went there. The first theater experience post-COVID for me. Everything shut down in March of 2020, and it was in December before I went back to the theater for this. And it was just me and about 4 or 5 theater employees there seeing this on the big screen. And I think it's part of that experience and the triumphant return to the cinema for me from COVID that helps with my ranking of this film. But Promising Young Woman is one of the most impactful watches for me in the last 25 years. And I'm not even talking about the merit of the film, just like how it felt to see anything, frankly, in the movies during COVID. And then on top of that, it was this kind of like pop art, colorful, revenge comedy thriller with Carey Mulligan giving the performance of her career, in my opinion. She was actually my pick that year for Best Actress. And she did not end up winning, of course, because Frances McDormand had other plans. But Emerald Fennell, the filmmaker, burst onto the scene and immediately was one of my favorite filmmakers. I could not fucking wait. And to this day, I love Saltburn too, by the way. I'm an apologist for that film, which didn't hit as hard critically as Promising Young Woman did. But I can't wait for Wuthering Heights. Anything Emerald Fennell does, because of Promising Young Woman, I will be there. She could put out 50 duds in a row, and the effect that this movie had on me, I'm going to continue to show up for her. She is a filmmaker that means a lot to me. This is a story about vengeance. It's a story about the male gaze. It's a story about women's justice, and I absolutely love this film, especially if you're talking about in the revenge genre. You saw I had Kill Bill down there, so that should tell you how highly I think of Promising Young Woman. It's my number 14 of the last 25 years.
Maybe I'm one of those people that has always wanted to do it, but it's like a pipe dream for me, you know, and then you set it, you change your dreams and then you grow up. Maybe I'm one of those people and I'm not supposed to. And I can go back to school and I can find something else that I'm supposed to do. Because I left to do that and it's been 6 years and I don't want to do it anymore.
Why don't you want to do it anymore?
Because I think it hurts a little bit too much.
You're a baby.
I'm not a baby
You
if I'm
are.
trying to grow up.
You're crying like a baby.
Oh my God.
And you have an audition tomorrow at 5:30.
I had Babylon in my honorable mentions, if you guys remember, and you're damn right I do. Why did we not show up for Babylon? I know there's people in my hive, like my boy Jonathan, but for the most part, why is that thing at like a 50 on Rotten Tomatoes? That movie fucking rules. But one that might be even better, it's at my number 13, is Damien Chazelle's La La Land. This guy also has an amazing filmography. I mean, it's First Man, there's Whiplash, there's so many that could very easily have fallen into this top 25 for me. And if I made this list next year, they might on a couple rewatches. But for me, La La Land blew me away because I'm not a fan of musicals typically. This is the only musical that you'll find in this top 25. And I think it had a lot to do with the performances. Of course, Emma Stone winning the Oscar this year, Ryan Gosling in the mix, J.K. Simmons is in this movie, even John Legend shows up in a pretty cool cameo. Now, the whole story of the white man saving jazz and all that shit, like, I get the problematic nature of that and people have critiqued it because of that. That's not why I love the movie though, and it's not why it's on this list. It's because of those performances I mentioned, and it's because of the love story, not necessarily between Mia and Sebastian, although I do love that story, but the love story between us or people in the industry and Hollywood. The love story that they have in wanting to be a part of that and wanting to create that art for, in my case, the general public, because it's just me, I don't have any talent. I just love that. It gives me goosebumps when a filmmaker can capture how important and how impactful cinema and that storytelling medium can be in our lives. And the whole fucking reason I do this YouTube channel and I come out here to the garage every day or every other day to talk about movies is because I love it. And it elicits so many different emotions in it. It's how I prefer a story to be told to me. And it's going to hit me hard if it's told correctly. And Damien Chazelle did that, where he told that story of Sebastian and Mia, but he also hit me because he knew, I'm telling you this story, but I'm also showing you how goddamn important movies are to me. And I owe him a debt of gratitude for that.
너는 나를 왜 찾았어?
12년 전에? 그게 그렇게 궁금해? 한 번 더 보고 싶었어. 잘 모르겠어. 왠지 네가 날 두고 그냥 확 가버려서 좀 열받았던 것 같아.
미안.
I was talking about the love story of Mia and Sebastian earlier. What Past Lives does is it's almost like a love triangle, but it's a ruse for the viewing audience, because it's not the love story necessarily, but it's the remembering how it felt to be falling in love or to have that feeling of love. I guess you could really say having a crush on someone at a young age, like preteen or in your school days, where you like felt those butterflies and didn't know how to express that emotion. Celine's song captures all of that from the childhood and the growing up through the years aspect here that we get from Greta Lee's character and Tai Yu's character. And then, of course, John Magaro is brilliant in this movie as Greta Lee's husband, and how he's kind of there the whole time going, yeah, I get it. You know, you guys were maybe, you know, loved each other when you were 12, so I shouldn't really be threatened by that. And you kind of it was brilliant, because then you put yourself in John Magaro's spot, because that's probably where most of us would be, unless we were able to reconnect with somebody that we, you know, loved. And I'm using that in quotes because I don't know if you can truly love somebody at 12, but you know, unless that happened to us specifically, we're probably going to connect more to either Greta Lee or John Magaro in this movie. So all of them bring such different POVs to the story, and Celine's song screenplay and filmmaking is on another emotional level. The ending of this film absolutely crushed me, and I still to this day do not know why. And I think that Greta Lee's breakdown at the end of the movie, when Tai Yu has to leave, she didn't know either. You know, she knew that she was going to miss him. She knew that she cherished the memories that they had as kids, but she's happily married. John Magaro is a great dude in the movie. I mean, great husband. So the effect of that, and sometimes the effect of nostalgia and memory, go a long way for us in eliciting emotions, tears or laughs or whatever.
Si vous me regardez, qui je regarde moi? Quand vous ne savez pas quoi dire, vous baissez la tête et vous touchez votre front. Quand vous perdez le contrôle, vous haussez les sourcils. Et quand vous êtes troublé, vous respirez par la bouche.
You know, I had Brokeback Mountain on my list earlier. Portrait of a Lady on Fire here at my number 11 is basically the female version for me of Brokeback Mountain. This is another captivating, tragic love story about forbidden desire, forbidden love, not knowing what to do in terms of this is what I want, this is what my heart is telling me, but this is what everybody else wants. This is what is expected of me. You know, obviously you got it from a much different time period and angle in Brokeback Mountain, and here you get it in like the 1780s or whatever it was, the French countryside from Celine Sciamma, who's another filmmaker. We got a run of female filmmakers here on this list, but I love her too, and she's done a couple other movies that I've seen since that are just as good, to be frank with you. But the real beauty of this film is, aside from the actual beauty of the film, I mean, it looks fucking beautiful, is the story within it, and how, if you're able to, and I think the way it's shot and performed, you can do this, especially if you're in a setting where you're like focused. Cinema obviously would have been ideal, but if you're focused on it, how you can take yourself out of that as watching a movie, and almost like you know these two women, right? And how it would feel to be a fly on the wall, for example, to watch them experience bliss and utter happiness when they're together, and then fear and anxiety the second that they're not, or somebody else is there with them, is quite phenomenal. Because you can go, okay, because then you think, what if I'm that third party? Or what if I'm somebody that shows up to dinner and they're acting the way that we see them acting when they're not, you know, having love scenes? And it's like, would that play for me? Would I be able to catch it? So I think that the performers, and like I said, the filmmaking really did a great job of making us see the secrecy involved and the pleasure involved in those secret moments, in those quiet moments that they have together. Another one where the last like 5 minutes destroyed me. I mean, absolutely destroyed me, which is going to come up again here in a goddamn second.
Battaglia persa per noi.
No, ma comunque
Andiamo a ballare.
Tu viens? Ciao. Tu viens là?
je viens après.
I guess I should tell you guys, if you know me personally, you probably know this, I'm straight. A lot of gay love stories in this top 25, which I actually didn't realize, so I'm about to give you my commentary on Call Me By Your Name, which is one of my absolute favorites. And why did Timothée Chalamet not win the Academy Award for Best Actor? Does anybody know? I guess Gary Oldman knows, but does anybody else know? I showed you that clip of the psychedelic furs and the dance scene. The reason I cut it up a little bit, because if not, it would have been 2 minutes long. But the reason I wanted to show that clip is because that's one of the reasons why I love this movie, yes, but also why Timothée Chalamet has remained probably my favorite actor, at least active working today. Because in that scene, and as an extension really for the whole movie, at least before we get to the like really intimate personal scenes with him and Oliver, Timmy's character of Elio is pining. He's a young kid. I think he's like supposed to be 17 in the movie. And he is yearning after Oliver, who's there to visit for the summer. And Timmy, as an actor, I mean, holy shit. Like, he never tells us that, like in dialogue. The only time that would be relayed to us verbally is when he has that great scene with his dad, played by Michael Strahlberg, who is, by the way, is one of the great monologues in the last 25 years too in this movie. But aside from that, everything we get, and anybody that's seen this movie, when you think about this, I rewatched it recently and I was confirmed. Anything we get in this movie that tells us what Timothy is feeling, right? And what he wants and how he feels about Oliver is through his facial expressions and his body movement, body language, his mannerisms. That's how we know. That to me is what tortured love is like. It really is. And Timothée Chalamet captured it in this movie. I know there's a lot of problems around Armie Hammer. I thought he was great in the film performance-wise, but I think something came out, he eats people or something.
They want you to get drunk and feeling like you belong.
Well, it was fun.
Because they make you feel cool. And hey, I met you. You are not cool.
I know. Even when I thought I was, I knew I wasn't.
Right, because we are uncool. Now, while women will always be a problem for guys like us, Most of the great art in the world is about that very problem.
Yeah, I can really see that now.
Yeah, because great art is about guilt and longing and, love disguised as sex and sex disguised as love.
I'm glad you were home.
I'm always home. I'm uncool.
The oldest film on this list goes all the way back to 2000. That's Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous. This is a movie that made me feel cool just by watching it. Cameron Crowe was one of those filmmakers in the early stages in the 90s and definitely up until Almost Famous, where you could see that he was putting himself in the movie and it was personal to him. So when a filmmaker can essentially retell his own life and, dramatize it for Hollywood and, have actors play him and people that he knew or whatever, which is what happens here. He's William Miller in this movie. Patrick Fugit's character, that's essentially Cameron Crowe. And it's loosely based on him traveling with the band when he worked for Rolling Stone magazine. Kate Hudson as Penny Lane in this movie, she'll never top it. It's unfortunate because I love her and she's not even old. She'll never top her performance as Penny Lane in this movie. Holy shit. She's referred to as a muse in the film, and she is a muse for cinema. I mean, literally, her performance in that movie is one of the all-time greats in the last 25 years, I think. But I chose to show you, before my commentary here, the scene of Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest in peace, one of our greatest American actors of all time, definitely of the last 25 years, as he portrays Lester Bangs, who was a real guy in this movie. He was like a music journalist and DJ back then in the 70s. And he kind of mentors and becomes friends with William Miller, the young Patrick Fugit in the movie. And his charismatic delivery of being okay with how his life turned out because he has music, right? Because he has the records in his house and he's able to remember, sorry, I'm getting emotional. He's able to remember different parts of his life because of the music that was there for him, no matter who else was, right? And I think that with movies. I do think it with music too, if I'm being honest with you. But that kind of shows my love for movies, right? And Philip Seymour Hoffman is one of the greats. He really is. And he's done a lot of great things in his life and his career. And even though it's a small part, the way he acts as a mentor to William and then to us, the audience, and to how he appreciates art and how we should too in this movie is one of the greatest things I've seen in the last 25 years and also in Philip Seymour Hoffman's career. I love Almost Famous. I think it is leaps and bounds above anything that Cameron Crowe's ever done as a director.
What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding?
I'm winking at you, gonna make you notice. Gonna use my arms, gonna use my legs, gonna use my style, gonna use my side step, gonna use my fingers, gonna use my imagination. Oh, 'cause I'm gonna make you see nobody else here, no one like me. I'm special, so special.
I showed you another music scene there for Lost in Translation, my number 8. My favorite Sofia Coppola movie, although there's other ones that could have made this list that I also am in love with. But I decided to choose this one because it introduced us, or at least me, to Scarlett Johansson. And 22 years later, one of the biggest actresses ever in Hollywood history. And we got to know her here. I think she was 17 or 18 when they filmed Lost in Translation. And it really is a story about friendship and kinship and being able to connect regardless of stature, right? Wealth, regardless of the class system, regardless of age. Because Bill Murray's probably in his 50s in this movie. And like I said, she's 18. And they just become friends and they understand each other. He's also a famous actor in America. But in Tokyo, he's just another dude that's out of place. He's another tourist there, as is she. And they're both kind of miserable in this setting that they don't understand, they're not familiar with. And they become each other's partners to get through that experience together of a couple weeks or whatever it is. And another ending that Sofia Coppola mastered the ambiguity of the cinematic ending with this film. To this day, 22 years later, people have made full-blown YouTube videos and done studies on what Bill Murray whispers to Scarlett Johansson at the end of Lost in Translation there on the street before he leaves to go back home. They're still talking about it. Sofia Coppola hasn't said, the actors haven't said, maybe he didn't even say anything on set. Sofia Coppola has suggested that she doesn't know, that the only people that know are him and ScarJo, and they've just kept that lore in place for over 20 years. It's just crazy to me, and I love it so much.
Too many guys think I'm a concept, or I complete them, or I'm gonna make them alive. I'm just a fucked up girl who's looking for my own peace of mind. Don't assign me yours.
I remember that speech really well.
I had you pegged, didn't I?
Yeah, the whole human race pegged.
Probably.
I still thought you were going to save my life. It would be different if we could just give it another go-round.
Remember me. Try your best. Maybe we can.
Talk about being tortured and having the lost connection and depression and memories. How about a sci-fi kind of romance tragedy? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind by director Michael Gondry. Starring Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. You also get great performances from Elijah Wood, Mark Ruffalo, Kirsten Dunst is in this movie. Jim Carrey should have been nominated for an Academy Award. Honestly, not just for this. Probably for The Truman Show, probably for Man on the Moon. He's never received an Academy Award. I told you guys I was doing that video, but he's never received a nomination. And then Kate Winslet becomes the object of our affection as a conduit through her portrayal in this movie of Clementine. I mean, she's the epitome of like what a guy wants in this movie. You know, she's so quirky and cool and real and fun and beautiful, obviously, and good. She's good to Joel. You know, just sometimes we grow apart. Sometimes we break up. Sometimes somebody does something stupid and they can't come back from it, or we fight or whatever, money. I mean, who knows? And so what if there was this thing that you could erase that person from your mind so you don't have to be sad all the time when you think about them? But then he regrets that. And it's a journey to get those memories back. So he doesn't want to forget her. You know, I think of that song. I know it's cheesy, but Louis Capaldi put out that song Forget Me a couple years ago. And it reminded me of this movie. It was very popular on the radio and stuff. I actually really like that song. But, you know, he says, I'd rather you talk about how much you regret me and wish that I had never been born than to forget me. Don't forget me. You know, and there is some like really hard, real shit in that if you think about that. Like if you break up with somebody, or if you've broken up with somebody several years ago, decades ago, do they remember you? You know, do they forget? Have they forgotten you? Have they forgotten that relationship? That hits hard if you really think about it.
So you want to get married to me, Vanya? You want me to be your little wifey? Yeah?
Yes. I just think that we had great time together, and... Бля, я волнуюсь, на русском скажу. Что? Мне кажется, просто мы бы клево провели время, даже если бы у меня не было денег. And I will become American, and my parents will suck my dick. I'm serious. And I said it wisely.
3 carrots.
A lot of you were probably wondering if this one was going to show up on the list, and here it is all the way at number 6, my favorite movie of the year last year, Nora, which also won Best Picture from Sean Baker, of course starring Miss Mikey Madison, in a star-making Star is Born performance. Of course, I knew her as one of my Ghostface from Scream, Amber from Scream 5, but this was really the role that kind of introduced her to the world and definitely to the industry and the award circuit. I love when a filmmaker or a screenwriter, in this case they're both Sean Baker, can take a story or can come up with a story that can combine 2 very popular things or genres and bring them together to a cohesive retelling. And in this case, we have that kind of pretty woman or like Cinderella narrative that we get with Annie, with Nora. And then we also have this kind of like uncut gems, like road trip kind of thriller, and he brings them together in this movie. And it's kind of split up in 2 halves, fair enough. But the second half is all of that shit. But I love how the movie kind of flips on a dime, and we're going to talk about that here in another entry in just a minute, because this movie went from like a sweet, like I said, Pretty Woman story to like, holy shit, I just pounded 15 Red Bulls, let's go, in the last hour. The filmmaking is out of this world. There's a reason why this thing racked up at the Academy Awards among many, many other awards bodies this season. And Mikey Madison is Annie. She is Honora. She, you feel like she is one of those people. It's almost like Sean Baker went and found her in a strip club and said, hey, come be in my movie. Not that it was an actress performing, like it just felt so real. Even though I loved Fernanda Torres, and even though I loved Demi Moore, and they also gave phenomenal performances, there was never a time that I foundered last year on my prediction of Mikey Madison, because that was the best performance, and she was getting the accolades that she needed to win.
Have you heard, Aldo the Apache, you got heard about the bear Jew?
I heard of the bear Jew.
What'd you hear?
Beats German soldiers with a club.
He bashes the brains in with a baseball bat, what he does. And Werner, I'm gonna ask you one last goddamn time. If you still respectfully refuse, I'm calling the bear Jew over. He's gonna take that big bat of his, and he's gonna beat your ass to death with it. And take your wiener schnitzel licking finger and point out on this map what I wanna know.
Fuck you. And your Jew dogs.
Actually, Werner, we're all tickled to hear you say that. Quite frankly, watching Donnie beat Nazis to death is the closest we ever get to going to the movies. Guy's German here wants to die for country. Oblige him.
Here's the other Quentin Tarantino entry. You may have been wondering where it was going to be. It's number 5, Inglourious Bastards from 2009. Man, what can I say? Tarantino, he did it with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood too, and really with Reservoir Dogs to a certain extent, but revisionist history is a really cool tactic in filmmaking that I respond to. I used to get kind of made fun of because I would talk about Titanic from James Cameron, which was pre-2000, so it won't be on this list, so I can talk about it. But it's revisionist because it's taking that real life story of the sinking of the Titanic, and it's incorporating a fictional piece to that. And in that case, it's the Jack and Rose relationship, although I think they were based on real people, but you know what I mean. There was nothing recorded about that relationship. It was all kind of created for the movie. Inglourious Bastards and other films that Tarantino has done, he'll start writing, I assume, and brainstorming and storyboarding by thinking of an event, an historical event or something that he really is into in history. And Once Upon a Time, it was Charles Manson. In this movie, it's the Nazis and Hitler and, World War II. And he thinks of that setting, and then he goes, okay, what can I do in that setting? This is my landscape. This is my foundation. What can we do? And what we got was Inglourious Bastards, which is funny as hell. Absolute hilarity, especially on the tongue of Brad Pitt in this movie. God damn, man. I know he won for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I gotta tell you right now, this is probably, because of everything he does comedically in this movie, it's gotta be Brad Pitt's best performance. I would love to know what you think about that. Hit me down below. I think this might be his best performance. I'm dead serious. I love him in this movie. Certain scenes in this movie, in the same movie, there's like 2, maybe 3 of the most iconic scenes in the last 25 years in the same movie. The opening scene with Christoph Waltz when he visits the Jewish people harbored under his house, drinking the milk. That shit's intense. You don't say it's not. It's one of the best openings to any movie in the last 25 years. The scene in the bar, underground bar with Michael Fassbender. Dude, I almost wanted to put that scene on this video, by the way, but I couldn't because it was too long. And if you haven't seen it, I cut it up. It wouldn't really make any sense. So I decided to go with Brad Pitt's comedy for my scene. But yeah, man, Tarantino this is one of the movies on this list that I can easily say is a masterpiece. It's the best in his filmography.
And why do you want to kill me?
I don't want to kill you. What would I do without you? Go back to ripping off mob dealers? No. You complete me.
You're garbage. You kills for money.
Don't talk like one of them. You're not. To them, you're just a freak. Like me. They need you right now. But when they don't, they'll cast you out. Like a leper. See, their morals, their code. It's a bad joke. They're only as good as the world allows them to be.
From 2008, The only Christopher Nolan entry on this list is The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger on my list earlier for Brokeback Mountain, but this is the performance of his career. He also won the Oscar for this posthumously for supporting actor, of course, at the 2009 Oscars. And it should be noted that the Academy went from 5 nominees to the following year 8 nominees, and now they are at 10 nominees for Best Picture because of the push. Well, one of the reasons, because of the pushback and controversy around The Dark Knight not receiving a Best Picture nomination that year. And it should have. You know, Christopher Nolan is who he is, so it's almost not fair to say this. But if a filmmaker, a director, but they can take a superhero or a comic book story from the page and make it not that. It still has those elements. Obviously, Batman's still in the movie. But it's almost like if you didn't know the comic or if the comic didn't exist, this would just be a movie. And you'd be like, why is that dude dressing up as a bat? You know, why is the clown dude? Well, what the hell is this? You know, but it would still be Heat, basically, with comic book characters in it. Just a adrenaline rush of a film. I went to see this in IMAX opening weekend in 2008. And the scene when the damn truck, the 18-wheeler flips over and they have that whole confrontation in the street and the Joker's got his gun out and he's like, hit me, you know, and he's going at him with a motorcycle. I mean, the whole thing, I was just like this. Like I couldn't believe what I was seeing on camera. And then, you know, you get to learn who Christopher Nolan is and you're like, okay, well, yeah. I mean, you know, obviously. Now, The Dark Knight Rises, I didn't hate it, but it didn't hit nearly like The Dark Knight did. And then Batman Begins, I also liked a lot, but that was much more of like a dialogue-heavy origin story. Whereas in The Dark Knight, it's like, let's pump it up, guys. Here we go. Every fucking 10 minutes, there's going to be an action sequence. And there's going to be a comic book-inspired sequence with pow, bang, whatever, you know, but in cinematic fashion. Obviously, Heath Ledger, you know, the clip I showed you was the interrogation scene, which I thought was a good clip to show for his like acting prowess in this film. How he has that kind of like sarcastic snarkiness, that kind of evil within him, but also he understands Batman. He knows what Batman's doing. They're basically the same. And Joker knows that, and Joker's telling Batman that, like, look, dude, you might work for these dickheads, but you're not one of them. You're one of me, you know? And you're choosing to do whatever you're doing, but we're the same fucking person here. Before I say it, I'm including anything the MCU has put out. I'm including anything, definitely, that DC has put out. Anything that was on Disney Plus television. Any of that shit. Okay, I'm telling you right now, this is the best movie adapted from superhero comic book material of all time. Let's go on to my next pick.
Sola y llorando, 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 no es fácil de entender que al verte otra vez yo esté llorando. Yo que pensé que te olvidé, pero es verdad, es la verdad.
My number 3 is another pretty older entry on this list, 24 years old, and that's David Lynch, rest in peace, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, in his film Mulholland Drive. Naomi Watts, longtime friend of Lynch, collaborator, stars in this film with Laura Herring, the 2 female leads, and then we have a lot of tremendous supporting performances in here, including a slimy one from Justin Theroux that's unforgettable. The homage to California, the homage to Hollywood, and the homage to movies in general is a pretty constant theme on my top 25 here, and this is another one. David Lynch was a filmmaker that made movies for the love of movies. And there's other filmmakers like Chazelle, like Tarantino that I've mentioned on this video, and like others that are actually coming up here in a second, that's why they do what they do. Because they love what movies did for them in their growth, in their childhood, whatever. And also you can see his unapologetic style and how he's just gonna make the movie that he wants to make visually. And it's usually, like we said with Lanthimos earlier, for the most part, it's fucking weird. Mulholland Drive has a lot of those weird elements. One of the greatest jump scares in all of movie history is in this movie. Literally out of nowhere, it makes no sense. And it's in this movie. I don't know why. It's not a horror movie in any way, but a lot of people will tell you that's one of the greatest jump scares that you'll see in a film. but it also is a straight narrative for the most part. It has a plot twist, kind of surrealistic element to it in the final act when things kind of tie together. But as we're going through the journey in the film with Naomi Watts and her being new to Hollywood and trying to adjust to that hustle and bustle of arriving there from like the Midwest or wherever she came from, we're on that journey with her. I showed you that one scene where they're literally breaking down while the song is being sung to them in Spanish. And I wanted to show that scene to kind of reflect the beauty of the film. Lynch is a brilliant genius, but I mean more so how you feel when you watch it. It's my favorite David Lynch movie, definitely of the last 25 years, but of his entire filmography, this is my favorite. Wild at Heart with Laura Dern and Nick Cage is a close runner-up, and I also love Eraserhead early in his career. But for my money, it's Mulholland Drive, and it's really high on my list, as you can see.
뭐 이쪽 업계선 나름 신선한 케이스? 근데 또 그 친구 수업이 유니크하면서도 뭐 예중, 예고, 입시까지 뭐 다 커버해주는.
어머, 너무 궁금하네요. 어떤 분이실까?
만나 보시겠어요? 아, 근데 이 친구 약속 잡기 되게 어렵다던데.
아 잠깐. 제시카 외동딸 일리노이 시카고 과선배는 김치모 그는 네 사촌.
My number 2 is another one that I would call an absolute divine masterpiece, and that's Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, as you can see. This is a film I was talking earlier about Nora, and when a film can flip it on a dime and can essentially change tone, change theme, and almost become a completely different movie with all the same people in it. And that's what happens in Parasite about halfway through. This is a movie that's about 5 years old, so I don't want to spoil it, but about halfway through the movie, or maybe 2/3 of the way through the film, you know, we've been dealing with this story of this family and this class system and how they're trying to kind of like, you know, thieve their way to success or wealth or whatever, however you want to phrase it. And then halfway through the movie, we're like, holy shit, what is that? How did they find that? And it flips a switch and becomes something else. And the trailer to this movie, I think it was IndieWire or Variety Magazine or somebody had a quote on the trailer to this movie when it came out. And it said that Parasite starts as one thing and then mutates into something else. It's like watching a magician do a magic trick. That's exactly how I feel about this movie. And I remember seeing that quote and going, yeah, that's they fucking nailed it. This will also, spoiler alert, be in the top 10 or so of my favorite Oscar wins of all time when this won Best Picture. Just such a euphoric moment on my recliner. I remember that night. I wasn't doing predictions then. I didn't have my YouTube channel at the time. But if I did, man, y'all would have seen a freak out in my living room. I woke my children up. My wife was pissed. I still live with that joy when I think about this movie.
He's wired in. Sorry? He's wired in.
Is he?
Yes.
How about now? You still wired in?
Security. You signed the papers.
You set me up.
You're gonna blame me because you were the business head of the company and you made a bad business deal with your own company?
This is gonna be like I'm not a part of Facebook.
It won't be like you're not a part of Facebook. You're not a part of Facebook.
My name's on the masthead.
You might want to check again.
It's because I froze the account?
You think we were gonna let you parade around in your ridiculous suits pretending you were running this company?
Sorry! My Prada's at the cleaners! Along with my hoodie and my fuck you flip-flops, you pretentious douchebag! Tell me this isn't about me getting into the Phoenix. You did it. I knew you did it. You planted that story about the chicken.
I didn't plant the story about the chicken. What's he talking about?
You had me accused of animal cruelty.
Seriously, what the hell's the chicken?
And I'll bet what you hated the most is that they identified me as a co-founder of Facebook, which I am. You better lawyer up, asshole, because I'm not coming back for 30%. I'm coming back for everything.
And there's only one film that I could put higher than Parasite with a straight face, and it would be this one, 2010's The Social Network. From my favorite, definitely top 2 or 3 favorite filmmakers in David Fincher. Another one of them showed up on this list twice, and that was Quentin Tarantino. But Fincher's The Social Network is a movie that was an absolute study for me as a film fan because it incorporated the Fincher style of filmmaking that I was already in love with. I mentioned Pulp Fiction to you guys in the mid-90s. Another movie in that era that turned me into a cinephile was Seven from David Fincher, and other ones too, like Panic Room and Fight Club. But definitely when Seven hit with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, I went to the theater like 10 times to see that. Because, you know, back then it was like VHS and you couldn't see, I mean, you'd have to wait 6 months to see it again once it left the theater. I took everybody I knew to see Seven over and over and over again. And his style of filmmaking, that really gritty, muted, like almost like vomit greens and like dark blues and browns that he uses in his color grading, and how everything feels very bleak and macabre, regardless of what the story is. He also incorporates it here. So this is a Fincher film, also written by Aaron Sorkin, by the way, who's one of the great orators of screenwriting. And all that shit's there, but then it's this very modern, technological story. And you might go, who gives a shit what Zuckerberg did to create Facebook? But the ironic truth is, we should all give a shit if we use the internet. Definitely if we use social media. Because Facebook and what Zuckerberg did and the kind of journey to get there, anything that you can think of today, YouTube, for example, the integrations into YouTube, into you even watching this video, TikTok, Kick, Twitch, Twitter, X, I'm sorry, all that shit was in some way, the DNA is connected to Facebook and to what the events that are depicted in the social network. To me, that's truly mesmerizing. It is really an intriguing subject. And also, we talk about snubs a lot on this channel. One of the biggest snubs for supporting actor is easily Andrew Garfield for this movie as Eduardo Saverin. Holy fucking shit. You guys saw that scene I showed you at the top of this commentary when he barges in after he finds out that Marcus cut him out. That scene alone, which by the way is not even, I mean, he has plenty of other great scenes in this movie too, but that scene alone should have been an Oscar nomination. I mean, literally, you could have just watched that 3-minute scene on YouTube if you were an Academy member, and I don't know how they didn't go, yeah, okay, where do we write his name in? I mean, that was a fucking brilliant, and that might be my favorite clip of all 25 clips I've shown you, because I literally get chills every single fucking time when he's like, I'm not coming back for 30%, I'm coming back for everything. And the fucking Reznor Ross score hits and swells as he's backing away from the desk. Ooh, what a way to end this countdown, am I right? Guys, that is it. It was probably a long one. I want to thank you for sticking through this with me. I know YouTube flagged the shit out of this video because I put all those clips on there, but I thought it was important to do what I'm doing because this is a pretty big list for me. This isn't just a regular top 10 whatever. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you did. If you did, and it gets views and you like it and you comment, I'm planning on doing one just like this for my favorite horror movies of the last 25 years. Also want to let you know, if you're a fan of this channel or you're a fan of me, channel memberships are open. You get all kinds of cool stuff, including custom emotes. One of my face, one of Mikey Madison, who we talked about on this video, Timothy Chalamet, who we talked about on this video, the mom from Parasite, we just talked about her. Well, not her, but the movie. You also get all my non-time-sensitive videos early, including members-only live streams, which will also include Oscar predictions brainstorming sessions. So anytime I get on this computer to update my Oscar predictions, which I'm going to be doing more and more frequently as we get closer to the Academy Awards, I'm going to have my members on there with me, and they can influence what I'm doing, because believe me, I need the help. So if you want to be a part of the garage out here and become a member, just click join below. I would obviously appreciate it. But one way or another, don't forget to subscribe, and please let me know what you thought of this top 25 of the last 25, and you can expect a horror version on the horizon. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you out here next time in the garage.